So the session today, as you can see on screen, is from scale to sale, and I'll introduce Ryan properly soon, but I'll just get to our next slide, a quick little agenda while people still come on in. Obviously, first up, we've got tips for scaling your firm with Ryan Lazenis. We've got some team announcements, content that I'll let you know about, and some new features that I'll just recap. So that's a quick look at it today. So I think we'll get into it. So Ryan, now I can properly introduce you. Would you be able to just tell us a little about yourself, maybe a little background about Future Firm, and then we'll get into your sort of experience and tips?
Sure, absolutely. And thanks for having me here, and looking forward to speaking with you all today. My name is Ryan Lazanis. I'm a CPA, born and raised in Montreal, Canada. And I started my accounting career in a pretty small traditional CPA firm. And did basically file work there for about 5-6 years as I was studying for my professional designation. Once I achieved that, I went into industry very, very briefly before deciding to start a business of my own. And since accounting work was everything I knew up until that point in time, I decided to start an accounting firm. And I started one of the earlier online accounting firms in North America called Zen Accounting in 2013. And had a lot of great ideas for how I was going to make accounting easier for small business owners. The problem was I was highly inexperienced. I had never run a business before. I had no clue what I was doing when it came to anything that had to do with running a modern accounting firm. And I really stumbled along the way in the first few years before educating myself enough to put all the pieces together to create a more scalable accounting firm model. And within a 5-year period, I had a team of around 15 with me, and started getting a lot of interest from outside firms that wanted to acquire a more technology forward, scalable model. And in 2018, I was acquired by a large corporate services firm based out of Europe. I helped them transition over around a 1-year period. And at that point in time, I started Future Firm. And Future Firm provides coaching and content to help accountants quickly scale an accounting firm that they love. And I've been writing on my blog for the past few years. I have a podcast, a biweekly podcast. I educate over 5,000 firm owners globally via my weekly newsletter with tips, content, and tricks on how to create a scalable model. So it's a free newsletter. So a lot of free content. I've been doing some coaching for the last few years, primarily on a one-to-one basis, and basically working directly with firms to help them create a more scalable, systematized machine. And in January, I launched FirmAccelerate, which is my online coaching membership, which basically takes everything I know, taking my firm from scratch to sale, everything I know about coaching successful modern firms, and developing it into an online training program, complete with online courses, along with online coaching for myself whenever people need a sounding board or where they're stuck on any of the material, plus over 300 modern forward-thinking entrepreneurial firm owners that all get together online within this platform and collaborate in a community. So that's kind of what I've been up to at the moment. And yeah, I've been quite busy with that.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, that was awesome. Thanks for that background. And yeah, I've got a few questions before I get into in a second about that. I think it's good to, hear your honesty at the start as well about, takes a few years of stumbling. I think business is very hard, and everyone here can probably attest to that, right? It's not a smooth ride all the time, but you have those breakthroughs and you learn a lot, right? You keep going. So
exactly.
Yeah. For those who don't know me, I'm Anthea, and I'm head of growth at BizInc. So probably a few of you have spoken to me. You probably when you set up your website or content or whatever it was with BizInc. So we also have Sophie on the line, your account manager, who you're probably familiar with as well. So we'll get into it and ask a few more questions of Ryan about his experience. So obviously this session is called From Scale to Sale. So and like you just mentioned, you over that 5-year period were able to scale your firm and sell it. What does scaling mean to you, and how do you sort of help with that in your program?
So there's a difference between growth and scaling. A lot of accounting firms can grow, but with growth comes chaos. There's a reason why the accounting industry, there's a pervasive issue with overwork and poor work-life balance and crazy busy seasons. That's because we're growing but not scaling. So we're adding to the top line, but we're increasing the amount of effort required to run the business. Scaling is different, where we can add to the top line in a reasonable fashion, meaning we're not driving ourselves further into the ground. So that can be achieved once you standardize the model. So professional services is a very hard business, probably the most difficult business to scale, because of the level of customization that we provide to every kind of client. And the only way that you can scale a professional services business, that is add to the top line without working more and more and more hours, is to standardize as many elements of the business model as possible. So most people think, I'm going to scale my business by using more technology and more automation. Well, that's a good thought process to have, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. So there's many elements that need to be standardized across the business, across the firm, in order to create something that's scalable.
Yeah, for sure. I hear that a bit as well. Obviously, we have certain offerings with the website and even onboarding tools and things like that. And sometimes when we're talking about that sort of side of things, people can, if they haven't got sort of the systems in place, or, it's sort of the factory behind it all working smoothly, it can be, you don't want to think about marketing just yet. Don't want to think about, adding new clients in because of the stress that could just add to the business. And
that's exactly it. And that's what I think of it as, is it's a machine. It's a factory to a certain extent. And maybe it's not the nicest way to call an accounting firm. Nobody wants to look at themselves as that, but we have to have some levels of standardization across the business in order to be able to scale.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Trying to get the next slide. Here we go. So you've touched on this a little bit, but could you just talk us through a bit more of your experience around the sale bit now, the other side of things? We do have an article Matt sent me to share with you guys if you wanted, about when you sold your business, you were featured on Yahoo Finance, I think it was. So we can share that article with everyone. But if you can just talk us a bit more about the other end of the scale, that would be great.
So it was a very interesting process. I actually never thought I would sell the business. My father was a small business owner, and I saw him run his business through the highs and lows for decades, all the way until he retired. And I just thought I was going to fall into those footsteps and start a business in my 20s and just run it for the rest of my life. And business was going great, excellent year-over-year growth. But I started getting approached by a number of different firms that wanted to merge, partner, acquire. There's a lot of different options that were flying in my face. And it was the most confusing period of my life. I had no clue what to do. And I was doing these pros and cons lists, and I was literally driving myself crazy. And that really was a very interesting exercise to go through, because it taught me a few skills that were very important for how I coach everyone now to help go through periods of uncertainty. But ultimately, I just focused on what I really, really wanted out of life, and focused on what my ideal life would look like, and really got clear on what my purpose was in life. And when I clarified those 2 points, going through a sale process was quite easy, because I really knew that I didn't want to run an accounting firm. I actually wanted to help the accounting profession. That's one of the reasons why I started Zen Accounting in the first place, to be an early stage online firm, was because I was frustrated with the lack of progress and with the way that small businesses were receiving services in the digital age. So I got very clear on what I really wanted out of life, what my real purpose is. That really sped up the sales process for me, helped me find someone that could, or a buyer that allowed me to go through a quick transition. And I learned a ton going through that process. Going through that a second time would be a lot easier. But the first time around, there's certainly a lot of bumps. I made a lot of mistakes, wasting time with potential buyers that just would not be a good fit. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of went off on a few
No, that's
tangents
okay.
there, but
Yeah. I appreciate as well. You've been mentioning, I think back at the start, what you do now is about helping people build an accounting firm they love, right? And it can become a bit with all that overwork. And if, like we mentioned, if you haven't got those systems in place, it can become a bit of a grudge sometimes, I think, from, looking in and hearing from my side as well. So I think that's obviously a very important part of what you do. Is that a big part of your course as well at the start, I would assume, talking through that sort of thing?
it's the first part, really.
Yeah.
It's to get clear on what you really want out of life and then to model and design a business around that, because scale doesn't mean it needs to be $1 billion firm or $1 billion business. You could have a firm that scales up to $500,000 if you want, but allows you to work, 10, 20 hours a week or whatever you want.
Yeah.
Scale is different from person to person, but the most important thing is that we're getting what we want out of life, and the business is just there as a conduit to help us get there. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that the work-life balance part is a very important theme for me.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's probably a few deep thoughts to be had about these sorts of things, really, when you start to think about it. And I know everyone's goals are different, right? And we have this same chat at the marketing point as well, how what their growth sort of plans are or not, who they want to work with or who they want to avoid, even those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Like it comes down to all of that, I think. So yeah, I think it's very important in building a firm you love. I really like that. Yeah. Keeping on this sale theme, obviously you sold your firm, and we recently did a webinar with Brennan Poe of Poe Group Advisors. So Matt interviewed him about what makes firms valuable and that sort of thing. So Sophie's going to paste a link to that webinar as well if anyone missed it. Basically, Brennan said that there were 4 things he believes makes a firm valuable: revenue, profit per partner, headcount, and days off per partner, which we've sort of been touching on as well a little bit. So what do you sort of think about those 4? Do they resonate with you? Would you add anything else in terms of what you think makes an online firm valuable?
Could you repeat those? You said revenue.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Revenue, profit per partner,
Yeah.
headcount, and days off per partner.
I think it depends on what kind of firm. And I really like Brandon, and actually Poe Advisors was the broker in our transaction. So
okay.
I have
Awesome.
some good experience with him. So, but a cloud firm and a modern firm, I think there's other variables that can help boost the valuation. And recurring revenue is a big one. People are looking for recurring revenue. People are looking at the type of technology that you're using. They want a technology forward firm if they're going to be paying top dollar. My firm had an inbound marketing engine. I think that was very important. Yep. Because you have leads coming your way. And I think that's a big component of a scalable accounting firm model. That's one. I have a 6-part formula for creating a scalable model. And one part of that formula is, do you have an inbound marketing engine? So are leads coming your way, essentially, or do you have to go out and hunt for business every day? So those are a few other things that I'd add to the list. Profitability is obviously an important one. Yep. I see a lot of these modern cloud firms today. They're growing like crazy, but you look at the bottom line and it's like ultra thin. Yep. So the margin is a very big component of it as well, but in addition to everything that Brandon mentioned. So those are a few other things that I would add to the list.
Yeah, very valuable, and obviously, from the marketing side, we can appreciate that. So maybe we just talk about that for a second. I do have a few more questions later on, I think, but what did you sort of do to set up that inbound marketing engine? I know that's obviously what we talk to a lot of people about, so it's a challenge for a lot of people.
It is, yeah. I think, I had 0 marketing experience when I started my firm. I had no experience in anything whatsoever other than accounting work. And I was a pretty bad accountant at that. So I was really starting with not much going for me. And marketing, I think I had a natural inclination towards that. But one thing that really, really did well in the early days for my firm was blogging. And it was not as competitive then as it is now. We're almost 10 years later, and there wasn't a lot of accounting firms that were blogging. And I just started writing what was on my mind and writing what I was passionate about. And I was never a good writer. I'd never done well in writing or in English classes, but I really believed in what I was trying to achieve for the business. And the type of person I wanted to work with was more of that millennial type business owner that was sick and tired of their accounting and sick and tired of the traditional model. And I just started writing about that, and it started connecting with people. It started getting found on Google, and I didn't have a blogging strategy, but it worked out well in the time because, like I said, it wasn't a super competitive space. And then from there, my interest in marketing just started developing. Now, 99% of what I did in the early days for marketing flopped miserably, but some of the things worked well, and I built on that. And now I consider myself more of a marketer than anything else. So everything I've done with Future Firm is all inbound type marketing tactics, whether it's through email marketing, blogging. Those are my two go-tos for the most part. That's how I've built up my audience. But then we do different types of content marketing strategies, such as webinars like this, or different types of partnership marketing strategies. Partnership marketing is a great tactic for accounting firms. Again, I'm going off in a few tangents, but in the early days, blogging is what really did it for me to generate all those inbound leads.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I think probably a bunch of our clients would, openly admit they also don't class themselves as, good writers. And I wouldn't class myself as as an accountant or a good accountant, or like to even think about tax. So we all have our, skills, right? But I do think, sometimes we can sort of put those barriers there. It doesn't have to be the, the best, well written piece of work or anything like that. I think probably the more important thing is what you mentioned is, right, what you're passionate about, something that sort of maybe you've been chatting about to a client, or questions you get asked about all the time. Because if it's, resonating with your clients, it might resonate with, your ideal clients that are out there potentially. So I think that's what I'd encourage people to think about is, what Ryan's mentioned. What are the things that are sort of on your mind, relate back to what your ideal clients struggle with? That could be a good place to start. And it doesn't have to be the world's longest blog or, the best written, I think.
You could have a 2-sentence email that goes out every week in a newsletter. It doesn't have to be the longest thing, but you have, like you said, you have to know who your ideal client is, and you have to have some passion behind it as well.
Yep. And I think even that partnership marketing one is something that might get overlooked a little bit as well, because there's, again, probably back to your ideal client first and foremost, but if it's, construction businesses you're focusing on or whatever it is, and there's other sort of partners that work with them, or trades businesses or something, there's usually someone else that, out there that wants to grow, and you can collaborate with a webinar like this, or, like Ryan said, a couple of sentences a week, and it's not very hard to start with. So.
A lot of directions you can go in for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one, which is obviously your firm is called Future Firm. So I thought I'd ask you to sort of look into your crystal ball here and see if you can tell us a bit about probably what you see on the horizon. What are some potential, disruptors, and what are some potential opportunities? I think sometimes they can both be the same thing, but I'll hear from you as to what you think's on the horizon.
I guess whenever I look into the crystal ball, I look into things that are happening right now, but are at the beginning of the trend. It's not things that aren't already happening. So things that are beginning to trend. A couple things that I have my eye on, like I have some good insight into this because the members that are in my Future FirmAccelerate community, they're all like modern firms. They're all like ahead, they're mostly ahead of the curve already. So I can see what some of those innovators are already starting to do. And it's something that I've been speaking about a little bit more in my podcast, and I think in some of my blogs, is there's ways to generate passive revenue in a firm. And I only started thinking about that once I developed my Future FirmAccelerate program, because previously I was doing one-to-one coaching. And I said, it's just not scalable, that kind of service. Yes, it's a high ticket item, but it's not scalable because there's only so much time that we have in a day. So then I developed everything, like everything I was coaching on, into an online course format. And I was pairing those online courses with group coaching. So like a monthly group coaching call with all the members that are interested in attending that need some additional help, plus a community element of like-minded individuals that can get together and collaborate not only on the content on these online courses, but also to help kind of raise each other up. So with these three things together, you have a very leveraged professional services model. And I said, you know what? An accounting firm can do the exact same thing. And you're already starting to see some accounting firms do that, where not all clients want to pay for bookkeeping. And sometimes you see firms that are trying to really get that client on board with a very thin margin, but we can develop online trainings for those clients to handle certain things themselves, for example, bookkeeping, provide a little bit of support to them throughout the year in a group type setting. And you're seeing firms implement this approach. I write about it in my newsletter. I have several examples of firms charging $150 a month, $200 a month. We're going more downstream, but it's all margin.
Yep.
And this is one thing that I think is going to be a lot more popular down the road, is this more highly leveraged services model where you release courses showing people how to do certain things on their own. They're paying a lower dollar value per month, but it's high margin, and you have some group support functionality. So Acuity is one of the leading accounting firms in the US in terms of cloud firms. I think there are, 150 people on the team now, and they're an 8-figure firm. They just released that do-it-yourself type model, and it's completely based off of my Future FirmAccelerate program. And a lot of people in my program are talking about that kind of model. So that's one of the things that I see increasing in popularity on the horizon. So that's just one example.
Yeah, that's also very interesting. And yeah, I haven't heard too much. Well, we do a little bit of the training sort of stuff on our websites in a way, like, get started with zero sort of things, pull together videos and things like that. So yeah, I'd love to do a bit more with that if, some of our firms are looking to do something like that. That's really, really cool. Forgot what else I was going to say on that front. I'll also have to grab a link to your podcast and share that with everyone as well, because it's, obviously working with those firms, you would get some great insights. So it's awesome that you share that sort of stuff as well. Well, kind of relates to this next bit. I know obviously we've spoken a little bit about marketing. You have touched on your weekly newsletter, which I read. I'm going to get Sophie to paste a link to it in the chat, but just full disclosure, it's my referral link because I'm trying to go for a free shirt here.
Nice.
So yeah, Ryan, tell us a bit more about your newsletter, and then we'll also grab a link to your podcast and maybe your blog as well for everyone afterwards.
Yeah. So the newsletter is something I wish I started a long time ago. I never had a newsletter in my firm, and it's one thing that I really, really wish I would have done, because
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I would have grown a lot faster for sure. And I love email marketing. Now, my newsletter is not promotional. It's not there to sell anything per se. It's there to develop trust with the reader and build a relationship. So I'd call it a content-based newsletter, where I'm literally just giving out free content every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, without fail, what I'm doing is I'm sending a quick little blurb, about 100 words, just an observation of something that's happening in the accounting industry. I curate the 5 most interesting pieces of content that I found on the internet that are pertinent for those that want to create a modern, scalable firm. So it could be a tweet I saw, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a webinar link like this, anything that I think would be interesting for my readers, which generally comprise of modern firm owners. I'm just going to pop those links in the email, provide 1 or 2 sentence commentary below it, and that's it.
Yep.
And I have about 5,300 readers that I send this out to weekly now. And it's been great just to develop relationships. And the name of the game of content marketing is to build trust and get in front of an audience often enough so that they feel comfortable when they're ready to buy from you.
Yeah.
And I think BizInc has a great newsletter too. I'm signed up for that newsletter, and it's a similar format. It's curating content. You're not creating your own content. You're just curating what you found out there that would be helpful for your readers.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I help accounting firms expose them to as well. You can do this yourself also, or you have someone like BizInc that could help out. And it doesn't have to be a whole long newsletter. It could be your top 3 tax tips of the week, or your top 5 business growth tips of the week, or the top 3 articles that you found that you think would be helpful for your audience. It's just content that's helpful for your ideal clients. Yeah. And you get it out often enough, and things come back your way. That's the name of the game with content marketing.
Yeah. I think that's one of the main benefits, right, is keeping top of mind as well. It just keeps your firm right there, even if it's just to existing clients. Probably most of our clients' main source of growth has, probably to date been referrals and sort of word of mouth type stuff. And that's great. That's a good sign of, doing something right. But it's, it is relying on other people, and it's, it's probably best to, definitely still keep in touch with those people and keep educating them. So is it safe to say you would recommend them for firms?
100%. Yeah. It's every single marketing strategy that I implement leads to my newsletter. Okay. Whether it's a webinar like this, whether it's any blogging I do, any events, every single strategy I have funnels into my newsletter. That's all I'm trying to do. And then once someone's in the newsletter, and by the way, Andrea, thank you very much for signing up. Yeah. You'll get to see what it's about. But then you get a weekly email from me, and it's a helpful email. And that develops trust, that builds the relationship. And then eventually a portion of those readers do convert to customers.
Yeah, because they see what you're about, what sort of stuff you're talking about, and how you work, all that sort of stuff. But it's like yours is, it's your top 5 sort of tips or articles you've found there. Similar approaches you mentioned with our BizInc bulletin as well. So I think it's I'm not going to say it's necessarily easy. I'm not going to say that you doing your newsletter is easy, but it's because you're always looking for stuff, I would assume. But probably easier than trying to start from a blank page and just write something, if you don't have those sort of ideas. And all right, so we've sent that link. We'll send it out in the follow-up as well. It's I highly recommend it. I always look out for it every week. Back to sort of probably a bit more about your Accelerate program and that sort of stuff. Obviously, we have touched on this a little bit with the growth versus scaling at the start, but what are the biggest challenges you see accountants face when scaling their firms?
I think it's staying disciplined to a plan, because it all starts with a plan. You have to be very intentional about creating a scalable business, and you have to stay disciplined. Very hard to stay disciplined because you're going to get so many opportunities that come your way. I know this very well because when I started my firm, I would accept any kind of client, anything that came in. I'd accept any client, any engagement, but you can't scale like that, because then it's just a mishmash of processes, a mishmash of different types of clients. You can't onboard them quickly enough. You can't understand the nuances of that particular business fast enough. And that's not conducive to creating a systematized machine. So we have to be very intentional about the decisions that we make. And it starts with a plan. So whenever I'm coaching anyone, or through my Future FirmAccelerate program, the first thing is we create a roadmap. And the roadmap identifies where you want to end up with your business, where you want to end up in life, reverse engineers that plan so that we know what we need to be doing in the next 90 days. But over and above that, we also get clear on some of the business fundamentals, like who you're targeting specifically, what is your value proposition, why do you exist in the first place? Like really getting clear on those fundamentals and then sticking to that plan. So if we've identified we're going after this kind of client and you have another kind of prospect that comes your way, well, we have to say no to that. So the challenge is staying disciplined. That's one of the biggest challenges to creating a scalable model is you have to trust the plan and stay disciplined when you need to be.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be, fairly tough. I think, particularly sometimes our profession, well, the profession being, I've found to date fairly, helpful people. They just, if someone comes in and they, struggling and they can help them, right? But yeah, I can appreciate that the plan's there for a reason, right? So yeah,
And we need
it's
a
all,
plan.
yeah,
Most firms don't have a plan. So
yes,
there's a reason why we get so busy. It's because, and I started like this too. You just start, you're like, I'm going to open a business. I'm opening an accounting firm. Okay, I need to find business. I need to find clients. And you
yep.
just start accepting things. And then it just snowballs into something. And it just turns into something you didn't really expect or maybe didn't even want. So we have to have a plan, then stick to the plan.
So do you think, because often I do hear, like, especially at sort of the startup phase, the early years, you probably are going to, take on clients that aren't necessarily ideal, but, cash flow, right? So do you think it's better to start day dot with this sort of plan mapped out, or have a few years of sort of learning, or what's your sort of thoughts on that? I've seen either side of it.
Well, it's a very good question. I think, look, when you're starting out day one with zero, am I going to say turn down that specific engagement right off the bat because, hey, it doesn't fit exactly into what this plan says? I don't think we're going to be that strict. I think we have to be reasonable at the same time, but there has to be a time when that switch occurs. And that switch usually occurs way too late, if at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what I'd say is sometimes we have to be a little bit reasonable too. We have to kickstart things, but we also have to make sure we're not deviating too much from our original plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say that's probably the more important part, probably the place where people struggle is that switching point after however many years. It might obviously depend on the individual firm, right? But
Yeah, if it's years, then it's already too long.
right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'll get on to the next one because this is a bit of a struggle, I think, worldwide at the moment, but definitely here in Australia, attracting high quality talent. I know this is something you touch on as well in your course, and I just wondered if you had some tips on attracting, quality talent, given there's a shortage at the moment, in particular where I am.
Yeah, it's a shortage everywhere. I think it's very hard. Attracting and retaining is probably the hardest part of running a firm because these are highly in demand skills. And there's one thing that I learned. I was at a ZeroCon conference many years back, and there's one presentation that I attended, and my outlook into recruitment and attracting high quality talent changed forever after that presentation. And it was, we have to treat our job posting like a sales offer. We have to sell the company. You look at 99% of the accounting firm offers job postings, which is essentially an offer, and it's the most boring, bland thing ever. It's like picture a candidate sorting through these different job postings, and it's the same thing over and over again. It's literally sit in the corner, do some reconciliations, do some tax returns, do some financial statements. You'll be part of a busy firm.
Yeah.
Like, people look for a job or attracted to a job where they identify with the vision of the company and the difference that that company is making in the world. So first we have to be clear on what is the firm's vision? What's the difference are we making in the world? And then communicate that very, very early on in that posting, which again is like your offer, and give them reasons to join your firm. Sell the position. You have to sell the position. So your job posting is the most important document in that attracting high quality talent process, we have to make it very attractive. We have to sell the firm. We have to sell the reasons why they should join you and not the firm down the street.
Yeah, I think that's very, very solid advice there. And probably like it's the way some people would think about it for, when you're applying for a job, right? You've got to make your resume or CV stand out. You've got to be the one that, makes that good impression from the start. Well, particularly at a time when there's a shortage or just full stop, if you want to attract quality talent like we're talking about. I think that's very, very good advice. And I've seen a few firms do things like, cool videos now. And, given that, like you said, 99% of the postings are probably pretty sort of stock standard bland, it probably wouldn't take too much to, to stand out, I would think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was one of the biggest surprises for me when I started my firm. I'm like, okay, it's time to hire my first employee, my first team member. I'm going to put a job out and everyone's just going to flock
to
this posting. And I was like, well, nothing's coming back. And then I realized, okay, I gotta sell it, So yeah.
Awesome. I think that's, solid advice there. Next one is something you touch on in, I think, last week's newsletter, maybe the one before now. Can you tell us a bit about what is shiny object syndrome, and then what's your secret to banishing it or dealing with it?
This is a big problem with firm owners and business owners in general, but I see it with firm owners, primarily with technology. It's like there's this app here. I'm going to use this app, or you know what? I was working on this, but I saw this different app. Let me try this out and see how it's going to, like we're just bouncing around from thing to thing. And we have marketing to blame for that, truthfully, because there's a lot of great companies out there that do excellent marketing to capture your attention, to move you away from what you're doing. But this happens when we don't have a plan. That's why I put a roadmap in place, because once I establish the roadmap, I've established goals for my next 90 days. And then the blinders are on for everything else that comes into view. So if something else comes into view that's maybe a great idea for the business, I'm not going to start working on it right away. I'm going to add it to the list. And then I'm going to review my roadmap every 90 days and then reprioritize. But we can only achieve that and eliminate shiny object syndrome by having a plan in place and by sticking to that plan. So yeah, there's just so many distractions out there, and we have only a limited amount of time. We're all very, very busy. So we need to know what we block out and what we don't block out. And again, we can only achieve that if we know what our priorities are.
Yeah, for sure. I think, definitely that technology piece is something I've seen it. I've seen, maybe I'm going off on a tangent here as well, but, I've seen on LinkedIn, like, this is our app stack, and it's like the world's longest list just to, I don't know, prove something on LinkedIn or something. And it's like, is that really necessary? Do you need, all those things? It's fine if they work and whatever, but
That's exactly it. And a lot of these things don't move the needle like a whole lot. Like a lot of these things, these shiny objects, like they're not providing, like there's probably bigger pieces of the puzzle or bigger priorities that we have that are going to move the needle far more. We have to prioritize the things that are going to move the needle the most. And a lot of firm owners aren't doing that.
Yeah. I think it's, very important advice. And I mean, just the advice of a plan full stop, right? As you say, most probably don't have that sort of mapped out. And obviously we see it on a marketing plan side of things, but that's going to be a big part of a business plan anyway. So
it's the same thing. It's, just like your marketing plan, you probably start with the end. What do you want to achieve? And then you work backwards from there. And it's the same thing in your business. A strategic plan with your business is the same thing. We start with the end and we work back from there. And then we identify what those priorities are, and that becomes the focus.
And I think a lot of, people here today or listening would be advising their clients this sort of thing as well. It's one of those things that can be harder to do it yourself, right, in your own firm, than what's right and what you can talk to others about. And when you're doing that sort of business advice with others, it probably comes out naturally. It's definitely harder to do yourself. All right, next one we've sort of touched on earlier as well. So obviously, I'd like you to share a bit more about your course at Future Firm Accelerate that you mentioned,
Yeah.
and then we'll get into the 6-part course as well. Obviously, you can see this screenshot I took from your website.
Yeah.
I was mainly it's where should a firm start? You know, you've got a lot of interesting things here in these 6 parts, but where does it all start for a firm?
Yeah, it starts with really understanding. So again, this is a 6-part formula to creating a scalable firm. So the first part is, well, we need to standardize who you're working with. So that's having a well-defined customer base. Then we need to standardize what you're going to be providing them. That's your offer. And I call that a productized service offer. So it's a type of service that we can offer in a repeatable, systematic fashion. So a productized service offer. So we standardize the who, we standardize the what, then we standardize the processes in your firm. Over and above service delivery, there are sales processes, pricing processes, strategic planning processes. All processes in the firm need to be standardized. Having an aligned team. We need to have everyone working in the same direction on the right priorities. Inbound marketing. Again, if we're going to be hunting for clients day in, day out, it's just not scalable. So we need business coming our way. So inbound marketing generation. And then the last thing is technology. We add technology to these levels of standardization to further streamline and optimize the model. So this is the basis of what I teach and coach on inside of Future Firm Accelerate. It really starts with establishing a plan, establishing the business fundamentals, and really it goes through. You know, I've like I said earlier in this webinar, I've learned a lot of things the hard way, and I want to. One of the reasons why I started Future Firm is to help people skip past that phase of trial and error. Because I had no one, as a small firm owner, I had no one to rely on. I had to make all those mistakes myself. I tried to reach out to our professional body. You know, they were of no assistance whatsoever. So I made all these mistakes myself. I want to help people create a modern firm that they love and avoid those mistakes. And I just teach the things that have worked very well for me. You know, so my specific marketing strategies, the specific processes that I used, I try to template as much as possible. My sales, pricing, and packaging processes for landing, you know, high price deals. Those are all the types of things I teach, but it really starts with designing the firm from the ground up to be scalable, and that starts with my roadmap exercise. And yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the program. But one of the best parts, I think, again, is the community. I love the community. It's a really great group of supportive people, all in the same position, all helping each other out. And I don't think there's another place on it like it online, basically. So I'm really having a lot of fun interacting with different firm owners, and I relate quite a bit to what they're all going through.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on the next slide, I've got, if you could just talk us through the special offer you've kindly put together. Some of our clients here might be interested in finding out a bit more. So could you just talk through the offer you've got here?
Yeah, sure. So Future Firm Accelerate, it's an online coaching membership. It's a website you log into. You have a collection of online courses in line with everything that we discussed today. A coaching from myself when people get stuck. I'm there to help, either through in the community. I'm answering people's questions there, or there's a monthly Ask Me Anything call, which is recorded and transcribed. It's from people all around the world: Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Asia, everywhere. Really good international group of people. And yeah, the community that I mentioned as well. So that's all through the online platform. And normally it's $95 a month. For anyone that's attending this webinar, I'd be more than happy to welcome you. First 30 days would be at $24 a month. There's no contract to that. After that, it would be $95 a month. And you can cancel anytime, but very few people are leaving. So I feel very good about the membership, and I love the members that are in there. And ultimately, I'm just helping people create a scalable firm that they love working in. So yeah, that's a little bit about and generally the type of people that are in there are startup firms, 6-figure firms, 7-figure firms. There's 1 or 2 8-figure firms, but for the most part, they are what I would consider modern firm owners, more online based firms, want to create a more cutting edge firm, want to implement more innovative practices. So I would consider them like online cloud based modern firms.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you who it's sort of for, who it might not be for. So that's, yeah, fantastic. Obviously, some goals to scale would be part of that. Yeah. I was going to ask you as well. Sophie's put a link in the chat as well and put the offer there, so people can look at that.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, we had a question, about how is it sort of a 12-month course or a time frame, or is it just like you said, you just mentioned people haven't left, so is it just continually chipping away at that plan and
You stay for however long you want. You can come in for 1 month for $24, consume everything you want and leave. I researched a lot of these programs before launching it, and there was a lot of tactics that were more pressure sales oriented or would lock you into a period of time. I just want to leave it open. It's continuously open. You can join whenever you want. You could leave whenever you want. I just want to make it easy for people, no pressure. And yeah, it's growing pretty quickly. So I started in January. There's over 300 members in there already, and really awesome group of people. So yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope
for sure. And if anyone has any questions for Ryan while they're here, put them into the chat and we'll ask them on your behalf while we've got him. Otherwise, we'll send the details afterwards as well. But yeah, that's very much appreciated. Obviously taking the time to chat to us today. It's been awesome, and for the offer, we appreciate that for our clients as well. So yeah,
absolutely.
I can imagine that would be a great group to be a part of. Even just that community you mentioned, I can imagine that would be fantastic. So yeah, thanks a lot, Ryan. We'll just jump into a couple of announcements from Biz Inc. But as I said, please use that chat if you've got anything that comes up for Ryan as we continue as well. First up from Biz Inc., we have a new product ambassador in North America. Trey's actually a client of ours. So he's sort of been, in the trenches, as it were, to see how our product and marketing and websites work. And now he's, telling the world about Biz Inc. So we're happy to have him on board. You might see his face around. This is just an overview of the new content we've released. There should be another blog coming out today as well. Probably I'll jump onto the next slide to tell you about our new notifications feature, because this relates a bit to this as well. So we've recently launched a new feature where you can get notified when we release new content into your website. So we do things like blogging, Ryan. So we have like a library of content we add into the back end of their websites. Obviously, I encourage people to do their own things as well if they've got, like we're mentioning, topics they're passionate about. But at the very least, what we've got is a way to get started and hopefully get marketing out without it taking too much time. But this feature is so you don't have to, rely on me telling you there's a new blog going in there, or remember to check, this webinar or our Facebook group. So Sophie's going to put a link in the chat if you want to request this feature. You won't see anything in your website. It's just the notification that comes. So feel free to request that. These features are currently in beta testing mode though, so we'd appreciate your feedback. Next one as well, similar sort of thing. It's still in that testing mode. It's called Checklists. And again, Sophie will put a link to request this as well. I've got a screenshot on this page just to show you one example. So it sits in the back end of your website. We've got a few like pre-filled checklists on things like promoting a service or promoting one of the lead magnets we've got in there. There's also one when you launch a website, we can help you get that out there to more people. It's a light task management system as well in the back end, so you can use it for your own things too. So if you've got any feedback for that, we'd appreciate that as well, like what checklist you would like us to put in there. We will be creating more. It's going to be a big part of what we do as well, these sort of campaigns and step-by-step campaigns in there. So the link's in the chat. Feel free to request that. The feature is available to everyone on websites. Really, the difference in packages is how many of our pre-filled checklists that you'll get. And yeah, bit of a look at our product roadmap. We are looking at a refresh of our content. So Glenn has always been like a co-founder of BizInc, but has now come on board as head of small business. So he's working on a refresh of our business content, which you'll see in your resources section. We're also going to be refreshing or adding some more zero content. And yeah, like we alluded to last month, very soon we'll be announcing some content from like best-selling authors. So send in any other requests you might have, particularly going back to what I mentioned earlier. If there's questions your clients ask, quite a bit, that's obviously something that we might want to write some content about and put that into your sites for you. So let us know. And Matt's also wanted me to promote his little speech coming up next month. So he's going to be at the Trenches Summit. So if he's put the link to that as well. So this is for our Australian and New Zealand clients. Matt and Glenn will be at the summit. I think it's on the 14th of September, but yeah, the link will have the details. And they're talking about, the mind of a small business owner through our content, through you guys, obviously, and through Glenn's business, the small business company. They've reached literally millions of business owners over the years. So they have learnt a thing or two on that front. And yeah, like I said, we're focusing on refreshing our small business content as well. So hopefully that'll be a good session, and the whole From the Trenches summit should be fantastic as well, looking at the speaker lineup. So check that out. So that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for your time. We're coming up to the hour anyway. So again, we'll send out all the links for Ryan's course that we mentioned and any of the resources we mentioned today. There will be an exit survey as well. So we'll ask you if you do want to find out more about Future Firm, and then we can get in touch with you as well. Otherwise, you've got the links there. If anyone has any questions at the last minute now, send them through, and I'll keep an eye out here. But otherwise, we appreciate your time, and thanks again to Ryan for coming along.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.